is. See what I do for you guys. 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still hard at work. No rest for the wicked. And I am very, very wicked. But obviously not as wicked as some of the people in the SNP, apparently. Seems to be a wicked one. She's all wicked. So let's welcome to part 2. Let me just get the chats up, guys. Here's the chats up. And let's crack on so we can all get to bed. Or you can watch it at a later time, a later date. It's very exciting. SNP war over claims former leader Alex Salmon was reported to the police over alleged physical assault. I think we've already done this one, guys, so that's gone. And here we go. Civil war, SNP civil war over Sturgeon deepens as party HQ calls for suspension of husband. Oh my goodness, what's going on? What's going on? I think we've done that one as well. Civil war deepens in the party. Here we go. Former SNP deputy leader. So let me read that out again. How's it going, man? Well, good, buddy. All good. Former SNP deputy leader calls for party coup against Sturgeon ahead of Holyrood vote. So they're now internally they're having a coup. This is from the Telegraph, and this was Dan Sanderson. So listen to this, former SNP deputy leader calls for party coup against Sturgeon ahead of Holyrood vote. Now, I don't want to say that I was right, but I did call this 3 months ago. It's been 12, 13 weeks, and I did say it was a matter of weeks before Nicola goes. But when they're starting to call internal coups on Nicola Sturgeon, you know that there's big problems in the SNP. Although this is a paper based in England, and there is, without a shadow of doubt, bias. I don't think that this is coming from anywhere else other than internally within the SNP. I don't feel that if Nicola Sturgeon hadn't if Nicola Sturgeon hadn't done this to Alex Salmon, she would have gone into this up and coming election firm favourite. She would still be in power. She wouldn't have any of this problems that she's brought upon herself. And even with the disgusting hate speech bills from Humza Useless, she would have been teed up to do very well in the Scottish elections. She may well still do well in the Scottish elections if she hasn't resigned. But this whole thing has muddied her waters now in the run-up. I mean, we've only got a couple of months and it's just going to get worse and worse in the run-up to the Scottish elections, which may or may not actually see the SNP not doing as well as they are forecast to do just now. People may still want the independence, but I think the SNP have sickened the populace. And I think although they may do well in this one for people who are wanting independence, I think as a party, the SNP, this is the high watermark, and I think that because of everything that's happened, the internal fighting that this has caused is not going to go away. We've already got people like Neil who are wanting to leave and jump ship to potentially the Scottish Libertarian Party. But I think we've seen the high watermark of, and whether she takes the SNP into the election, I think Nicola Sturgeon has damaged herself beyond repair with this whole scenario. And Uh, she will, even if she gets a majority, be a lame duck prime minister, and she's doing nothing anyway. She's done nothing spectacular in the last number of years. There's nothing that is going to be noticeable that she has left in her legacy. And the things she has left have all been bad and detrimental to the extent where people who are making Twitter accounts are being prosecuted. A former deputy leader of the SNP has called for a coup to be launched, and obviously Joanna Cherry is potentially with this other guy waiting in the wings. Party and apparently she's got large SNP support, but believe me, Joanna Cherry would just be another disaster in a different form for the SNP. I think we need a different type of politics in Scotland. A former deputy leader of the SNP has called for a coup to be launched against Nicola Sturgeon before the Holyrood election as party civil war over Alex Salmond deepened. Oh, look at Jim Sillars, who was married to Margot MacDonald, who was a very nice lady, a former MP who served as deputy leader in the 1990s, said he would not vote for the SNP at May's Holyrood election. Wow, wow! And him and Georgie Porgy Galloway had a very interesting debate. Jim Sillars comes from the same place that Georgie Porgy Galloway comes from, and they both come from that red Clydesider socialist background. Although Jim jumped and became a nationalist, and obviously Georgie Porgy Galloway is a unionist. So but they both are similar in other things. Policy out with those main ones between being a unionist and being a nationalist. Who served as deputy said that he would not vote for the SNP at May's election, which he said had its toxic tentacles stretching into and around civic Scotland, which is completely correct. He's completely correct. She's become a wee dictator, almost Stalinist. I mean, Joanna Cherry, who's in the same party, has accused Nicola Sturgeon of becoming Stalinist. I would say that she's certainly an intersectional feminist Marxist from the Frankfurt School and a postmodernist Marxist. I think that's where she is in the political spectrum, which is very, very bad. He also claims that Mr. Salmon had been the victim of a conspiracy, something dismissed as ridiculous and a heap of nonsense by Miss Sturgeon, and claimed SNP voters were facing a similar dilemma to the recent Republicans in the USA when the party was led by the great President Donald Trump. Yes, time is short, but it has not run out. Mr. Sillars wrote on the online blog, there needs to be a revolt and a change in leadership, a real sweeping change. The first action falls upon the NEC, SNP's ruling body, to demand and create change. This is Jim Sillars on why he wouldn't hashtag WHEESHTFOR for Indy. What Sort of Scotland by Jim Sillars. Ian Lawson article yesterday could be viewed in two different ways. It explains the agony facing indie voters who knows support for good indie voters who know support for good local MSPs will be seen when taken with all similar votes in the country to be an endorsement of Nicola Sturgeon, whose conduct he finds reprehensible. or he finds himself in a political blackmail position where he dare not do what he wants without unfairly punishing a good SNP MSP. So, are you going to vote for independence even though the Nicola Sturgeon is a disaster and has been a disaster? This is the question for the independence voters, and I don't think some of the MSPs for the SNP are that great. Some of them are good, but a large proportion are pretty much political non-entities, and I don't think are adding much to the political discourse over and above the independence issue. So, or he finds himself a political blackmail position where he dare not do what he wants without unfairly punishing a good MSP. But in others with the SNP MSPs, who is not a good one, just one of the sheep on the back benches who bleat unthinking support on demand of the leadership. Or, and I think there's a lot of them like that, or one of the new MSP candidates so obsessed with woke issues. Oh well, I was going to say if you were an independent supporter, then you should actually potentially vote for them. But if they're woke, which is just Marxist, it's just racist, anti-white Marxism. Woke, that's what it means. Issues that they would be oblivious to 268 million cut in social housing as it set out in the SNP budget last week. The dilemma those second group of individuals will face, as does Ian Lawson, is that when all their votes are counted together, they will be seen by the media and claimed by the leadership as solid endorsement of all they have done. Yeah, I would vote for. I would certainly my second vote wouldn't be going for the SNP. There's the Scottish Libertarian Party or the Reform Party. Get somebody on the centre right to actually vote for so you can balance this out. Don't give the second vote to the SNP. The dilemma, those second group, the cost of the Wish for independence, the Wish, I think that's the cost of Wish for independence, national policy blackmail wielded by the leadership. You don't like the way we have centralised power in the party, made a mockery of previous party uh, constitution, marched you up the hill and back down again on the referendum, rammed gender down your throat, sacked the most able MP, attacked free speech, set out to ruin and imprison the former leader, but wished for indie because we are the only ones you can vote for. To say independence voters will are between a rock and a hard place isn't half of it. SNP members and supporters who are not members but voters are in the same position here that Trump placed decent US Republicans members and voters in during his presidential election and 2020 elections. Well, we would hope that the SNP could do as well as Trump in the economics that Trump produced when he was in power, because it looks like wee Nippy's just destroyed the Scottish economy for a virus that was 99.9% survivable. So what is the next Coup going to come out? Are we going to lock down and stop all people socialising? And is that what's going to happen next time? Is it? You are repelled by what I say and do, but you have nowhere else to go. Was his message basically the same? Well, go to the Scottish Libertarian Party. They're an independence party, and they'll give you a different opportunity to vote for a different type of independence, and they believe in free speech and anti woke Marxist agenda, anti white racist agenda. Ian Lawson, I don't have a good SNP MSP presenting me with his dilemma. I am therefore freer than he is to consider whether by my vote I'm going to endorse the SNP government with toxic tentacles stretching into and around Civic Scotland, and those practices revealed in the parliamentary inquiry are shown to have debased the open, fair, just democratic principles that the party was established on. Yeah, it's funny how that happens with the left, isn't it? It seems to go down, even with a female as the head, seems to go down a very Stalinist or fascist or certainly authoritarian route, even with a female in charge. So the what's between your legs obviously doesn't have a direct bearing on how authoritarian the person can be. And Nicola's increasingly authoritarian. She's with Humza useless now wanting to be able to tell you what you or put you in jail for what you say around your dinner. Check the in inver IVERMECTIN kills viruses. All right. Aye, well, I don't. I mean, honestly, 99% survival rate. If you're fit and healthy, you would just socially distance around people who, rather than locking down everybody, you would just socially distance around the old and the people who have got preconditioning things. But the majority of people in Scotland don't have the virus, so I'm not going to read any more of that. But if you want to read that, it's at yoursforscotland.com, wordpress.com /2021 /02 /09 what sort of Scotland by Jim Sillars. Certainly not the one that Wee Nippy's producing. So let's go back. So he also said that those who dismissed Joanna Cherry, a Salmond ally from the front benches, from SNP front bench at Westminster last week, were guilty of vilification, not greatly different from the deceit out of the Kremlin stooges. I mean, it's terrible. This is a real civil war in the SNP. Mr. Sillars has become an outspoken critic of Miss Sturgeon over recent years, but is still a passionate advocate of Scottish independence. He is not seen as a particularly close ally of Mr. Salmond, having fallen out with him over the treatment of his late wife, Margot MacDonald. Oh, that's very interesting. Oh, there's more. There's more. Hitting out at the SNP members who call for others not to voice their concerns over the fear of damaging independence cause. The question, what sort of independence are we getting? A Stalinist independence? He questioned the current leadership's ability to deliver it and said claims that a new referendum could be held by Christmas were a con. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to get a new referendum. I think the whole thing might be a con. If the Labour Party, if the Conservatives don't want you to hold it, the only thing is if everybody goes to the Scottish Libertarian Party, the Scottish Libertarian Party did not say that it was once in a lifetime, and they wouldn't have an ability to stop a Scottish Libertarian Party asking for a new referendum because it's a different party. Mike Russell's Christmas promise is utter garbage. He said he is playing to the indie gallery. 2 minutes thinking about the process and logistics show it can't happen in that timescale. I greatly fear for the independence cause at this time. I am despondent and disillusioned that a lot of MSP members think those values so minimal as to be unimportant and can be postponed to a later date after independence. You say, but how do you ever deliver that if you have become uncaring, corrupt, and if you have become uncaring, corrupt, and alien to justice on the journey? I mean, that's never a true word said. I can't. I'm not going to repeat that. Spreaders of hate. Yes, indeed they are. Um, Mr. Salmon's case is just one issue dividing the SNP, with the party also split on independent strategy and trans rights. Neil Hanvey, or an MP was also sacked as the party vaccine spokesman in the Commons after he donated to an online crowdfunder to raise funds to sue one of his own SNP colleagues, Kirsty Blackman, who probably is equally bad. Kirsty was well thought of in the media, so I'm always very suspicious of people in the media who think an MP's or an MSP is well thought of, because they usually have their own globalist agenda. However, the party has a huge lead in the polls, and Ms Sturgeon approval rating among the general public is high. Support for independence was at record levels. The SNP was approached for comment about Mr Sillars' comments and said Nanti. Holyrood inquiry split over publications of Alex Salmond evidence. The Holyrood inquiry, this is in the Guardian. Oh, the Guardian. Two people read it. I'm doing you a favour, me reading this out. So the Guardian, Severin Carrell, Scotland editor. Oh, fantastic. Right, he's from London. Holyrood inquiry into the Scottish Government handling sexual harassment allegations against Alex Salmond is in crisis after deep divisions emerged over publication of evidence to the investigation. So, Alex, you should definitely just actually tell the media what it was you actually want to say. During the tense 4-hour private meeting on Tuesday, the 9 strong committee narrowly voted by 5 to 4 against publishing the statement, which Salmond insists is an essential part of his case that Nicola Sturgeon broke the ministerial code on several occasions, I think. The Unionist parties, the Labour, Conservative, the Lib Lab Con parties, the Liberal, Undemocratic Democrats, the Islamo-Marxist Labour Party, and the fake Tories, the Globalist Shill Party, said that the decision raised critical questions about the committee's ability to properly investigate the botched Scottish Government's inquiry into allegations Salmond sexually harassed 2 female officials who were allegedly friends with Miss Sturgeon, claims Salmond has repeatedly denied and which he was acquitted of in court. End of story. It is now thought Salmond will refuse to appear before the committee. He had been due to give evidence under oath on Tuesday morning but pulled out because he insisted that the submission had to be published so he could refer to it. The committee split along party lines. The 4 SNP MSPs and Andy Whiteman, who I don't know if he was kicked out or left the Green Party, a former Scottish Green MSP, now sitting as an independent, voted against releasing it. The 2 Tories, Labour, the Lib Lab Con Party, voted to publish it in redacted form. Jackie Baillie, Scottish Labour acting leader and committee member, said the decision not to publish this vital evidence is, in my view, a blow to the credibility of the committee, which is why we need a public inquiry, and by extension to the Parliament itself. The evidence in question is already largely in the public domain, which I've read out, and by refusing to publish it, even with the appropriate redactions, the committee has denied itself the chance to question the former First Minister. That was echoed by Nat King Alex Cole-Hamilton, and who is the Liberal and Democrat committee member. The future of this whole inquiry is in jeopardy by it, but we owe it to the complainers, who have now not one of their allegations have stuck, who must have hated every second of this process, even though they might have been lying and should be up on perjury charges, perverting the course of justice, and other charges, at least try to reach a conclusion, he said. If we are to get to the bottom of how the Scottish Government failed the women who none of the charges stuck in a court of law, who could have perjured themselves, who could be committing, who could be working as an orchestrated group, who could be involved in this conspiracy, and who should be able to be charged now that none of their allegations stuck at the Court of Complaints. So terrible, then we must hear from the subject of the investigation. Salmon has not yet responded, but is reportedly considering staging a press conference. I'll be there, Alex. Just let us know prior when and where. She's from Dreghorn and is punching above her weight in a global stage. A social chameleon with no lip, can't be trusted, guided by a puppet master husband. Vote reform. He gets things done. Night, 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 buddy. Before Sturgeon gives evidence to the committee on Tuesday next week, a parliamentary spokesman said it had clear legal advice that publishing the submission would breach court orders even if it was redacted. That was because it has been leaked and published by The Spectator. Holyrood's legal advice was it could only be used by the committee if it consents were carefully redacted. The spokesman added, in addition to the issues around Mr. Salmon's submission, there are a number of conditions to this appearance that the committee simply cannot meet, including waiving threat of all legal prosecution. It is simply not within the committee's gift to make such a commitment. Salmon's submission to the committee is identical to that given to James Hamilton QC, Ireland's former Director of Public Prosecutions, who is investigating Sturgeon for allegedly misleading Parliament over the dealings with Salmon. I mean, it's all so murky, isn't it? And her knowledge about the internal inquiry into breach of the ministerial code. MSPs who vote against the publication accepted the advice that it is legally impossible to use it now. It has been leaked, but I also believe that Salmon's evidence is not centred to their inquiry into serious failures in the government's original investigation into the claims against Salmon. The government paid £500,000, £520,000 legal costs, around £180,000 in its own legal bills after Salmon won a legal action in 2019 challenging their handling of the investigation, plus at least 50,000 on legal advice, preparing civil servants, giving evidence to the Holyrood inquiry. SNP's magic money tree going to pay for a 4-day working week. So back to the Daily Record, and who we got here? Torquil Crichton, whatever. Alex Salmond inquiry, no right to private communications. Oh, I think we've already done this one. We've done that one. So let's go on to the Times. And this was written on the 10th of February. What was it? Wednesday, the 10th of February. So I'm right about ahead of the curve here. Alex Salmond was cleared by a jury last March of all charges against him. Jeff J. Mitchell, Getty Images. Salmond inquiry. Alex Salmond is a victim of a witch hunt, aide to SNP Chief Whip says. Oh my goodness. Kieran Andrews, Tuesday, February the 9th, 2020, 12:01. The Times. The senior figure in the SNP's Whip's office at Westminster has accused the party of coordinating a witch hunt against Alex Salmond. And Harvey, the principal assistant to Patrick Grady, the party's chief whip in the House of Commons, said she wanted to set the record straight. Oh, that's quite interesting. Harvey, a member of the Law Society of Scotland, added to the debate about whether there was a conspiracy to ruin Salmond by revealing that she had believed for some time there had been a witch hunt after after she received what she described as an improper request for SNP headquarters seeking to damage him. Oh my goodness. She was referring to emails to SNP staff from Sue Ruddock, the party's chief. Oh, and you've got to subscribe. Oh my goodness, that was quite an interesting article in the Times. I need to go out and get that tomorrow. Let's see if we got it here. Oh, that's a bit small. I wonder how we can pump that up. Oh, so I think I've read that anyway. Oh, here we go. Harvey, a member of the Law Society, debate about whether there was a conspiracy to ruin Salmond by revealing that she had believed for some time there had been a witch hunt after she received what she described as an improper request from SNP headquarters seeking to damage him. Wow. She was referring to an email to SNP staff from Susan Ruddock. Susan Ruddock, the party's chief operating officer, which was sent 5 days after the first complaint against Salmond were reported in August 2018. The email highlighted that the party was firm in its belief that allegations of harassment must be taken seriously, and anyone who considers that they have been subject to such behaviour must. So they're just using sexual harassment now to destroy men's lives. Anything. Some guy touched your knee. Oh, sexual harassment. Anything to destroy the person's life. That they have been subject to such behaviour must feel able to come forward. So we need polygraph tests to actually then facilitate who's telling the truth and the lie, and whoever's lying should go to jail. Individuals could confidentially report any matter to Ian McCann, the party's governance officer. It added Harvey chose to defend Salmond last night, hours after Ruddock released a statement through the SNP revealing that she was among the women who reported the former First Minister to the police. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. Ruddock wrote that the women who accused Salmond of sexual harassment were being subject to a campaign of bullying and intimidation before disclosing that she had also reported an act of physical aggression. I don't know what that means, physical aggression. That seems to mean a very loose terminology. Did they hit you? Did he put his hands on you? What did he do? Physical aggression seems to involve some sort of physical assault. So we would need to know what the assault was. To detectives, this related to an incident in 2008 in Glenrothes by-election. Salmond was initially charged over the allegation, but was not part of the High Court trial for alleged sexual offences. He was cleared of any criminality. So women are bringing forward these allegations. We don't even know what this allegation was. We're not any the wiser from actually what she stayed there. But it looks like that was 2008. And this is obviously, she's in a position of responsibility. And she's obviously maybe had a grudge against Alex Salmond. That's what it looks like from whatever this incident was. Physical aggression. Whatever it was. Salmond was initially charged over the allegations, but it was not part of the High Court trial for alleged sexual offences. He was cleared in all criminality. Harvey claims she was one of the only witnesses to the incident in which she said Salmond brushed past Ruddock on a stairwell. Eh? So they're now, women are making allegations of physical aggression from Harvey claimed was one of the only witnesses to the incident in which she said Mr. Salmon brushed past Ruddock. I mean, really, if you're getting reported now for brushing past people, that's you in a whole world of a whole authoritarian world of anything I say. It doesn't matter how spurious or absolutely minor. I can now make allegations, while at the same time major allegations are going unchecked. I saw that and heard nothing which caused me any alarm over or concern. I was only yards away, Harvey said in a statement released by Salmon. This is an incident she is referring to, but I can categorically confirm that there was no physical aggression on the part of Mr. Salmon. Another woman that's potentially lying, who was also involved in the orchestration of the rest of this. Oh my God! Harvey said that and Harvey is the female solicitor. So said that no, it's the fact that solicitors don't lie. And said that she was questioned extensively about it by police and had been close friends with Ruddock at the time. All right, so she's actually pals with Ruddock. And she says there was nothing in it at all, even staying at her house. Last week, an inquiry into the Scottish Government's unlawful handling of claims of sexual harassment by Salmon reviewed messages between the women which it had received from the Crown Office before unanimously agreeing not to publish them. In an unprecedented move, the committee had asked for the documents detailing texts or WhatsApp communications between Ruddock and the Scottish Government. There's the link there. There's one of the spider's webs there. Civil servants and special advisors. Remember, I've said all this between August 2018 and January 2019, which might be relevant to the inquiry. Linda Favanini, the committee's convener, and we need a public inquiry, said these messages represent safe spaces for confidential support. Yeah, where we can talk about how to frame Mr. Salmond allegedly. Ruddock said she was concerned the committee would seek further messages and accused the committee of allowing itself to be led by Mr. Salmon's allies seeking to bolster his reputation. It's the government's reputation is now in question right now. To be honest with you, all the fingers are pointing at the government. Um, Reputation through the false allegations. She added that her privacy had been breached repeatedly through selective leaks over the past several months. She said last night Mr. Salmon clearly agreed he behaved improperly as he called repeatedly to apologise. Miss Harvey was not present at the time of the incident. All right, okay. Do a polygraph test then. The inquiry was set up after Salmon won the judicial review against the Scottish Government over its handlings of the complaints for two civil servants. He was due to give evidence today, but that has now been shelved after his lawyer accused the committee of an offensive snubbing of his submission. So that's in the Times today. You can get the Times, support your Times, and I'll get it online. And yeah, I think that's it for today, boys and girls. Was there anything else on this? Let me just check. Crown urged to probe SNP Chief Executive's evidence. There's our old pal Paul Hutchins. Makes up stories. Exclusive on the Holyrood inquiry, voting 5-4 against relevant release of Alex Salmon's submissions. I mean, there's so much on that as well. Guys, love my baby gorillas. Good night.